Grüß dich. Wie läuft's? Hoffentlich ist es ein bisschen wärmer da, wo ihr seid. Hier in Deutschland frieren wir ein. Also.
First, they've got to clear up a language learning myth, and this is especially appropriate for Hindi. There is no such thing as fluent in 3 months. It's just not possible. You can never be fluent in 3 months. Forget it.
I absolutely agree. I don't think that I could move to Britain and become fluent in British English in 3 months. Realtalk is a language learning app, and it's designed to help you learn the fastest, but there are limitations to the human brain, how much it can absorb, and a lot of your learning is done in your sleep. That's when you really assimilate what you learned. So there are real time constraints to how quickly you can learn a language. I want to talk about what you can achieve in 3 months. I personally think that these 3-month fluency challenges are pure marketing bullshit. This is real talk. I think it's a scam, but in a few select contexts, I can imagine agreeing that fluency is achievable in 3 months. And here are the 2, or maybe 3 cases I can imagine. One of these is if you're already well versed in related languages. If you speak German and English, learning Dutch will go a lot quicker for you than most people. Likewise, if you speak French and Spanish, you'll probably be able to learn Italian relatively quickly. And perhaps if you took 5 years of Spanish in high school and you actually went all the way through to the highest levels of AP Spanish, you're probably still not fluent yet, but then you spend 3 months in Spain, I think, or anywhere, Latin America, I think you're going to come a long way with that book knowledge essentially put out in the field. Those are the 3 instances I can imagine where I would say, all right, then it's possible. But it's not truly 3 months, is it? In any of those cases, you spent years learning your first language. You might have spent years learning another related language, and then you learn another language in that same family or on that same branch of the language tree, and now you're utilizing a lot of time spent already to make that last 3 months very profound. You'll make a big gain in your abilities. So hip-hop basically rules the world. I'm sure you're familiar with freestyling. Freestyle rhyming is when you don't have any prepared script or song, but you're just going to rap and make sure it sounds really good. And this is a fraction of the ability you need to be able to actually speak freestyle, because what you're doing in any given situation is you're freestyling. And the ability that you need to do a good rap is basically just rhyming the ends of the sentences. And of course, once you have words, you need to create sentences with the words. It can't just be meaningless. But when you're speaking, everything has to fit together. The grammar has to fit together, the word associations. You need to have the right relationship between you and the speaker, so the formality sometimes. Everything is all swirling around at once, and only thousands of repetitions can really make it so that you're able to freestyle. And that's what you do in life. But if you want to freestyle in unknown waters, that's the definition of fluency. When you don't have the words to explain what you're talking about because you've never been in that situation before, but you still fluidly deal with the situation, you fluidly express, you find a way. But that is not what fluent in 3 months usually means in these marketing gigs. What they're saying is you'll be able to introduce yourself after 3 months. I'd like to break this down a little bit more. So, being fluent at introducing yourself, for me, does not constitute fluency, because it's probably the most scripted thing you could ever do. You won't write a script for it unless you're practicing for some kind of oral exam. But introducing yourself is your best known story. You're telling a story you know better than any other story. And variations don't really occur in this story. It's pretty much fixed. There are very little contingencies you have to plan for, and when you tell the story, it's all very predictable. But that's not the definition of fluency. Fluency is dealing with the unpredictable. Let's see what else Carl has to say.
Language learning is a really slow process, especially a language like Hindi, where there are so many complexities for an English speaker. There are not many similarities in English compared to, say, English to German or English to French or English to Dutch, any of those European languages. They're a little bit similar, and at least you can use the same script.
That is totally true. I moved to Germany, and it's been about 4 years that I've been speaking German, a little less, and I would say Fluent was around year 2, like choppy but fluent. But if you want to have style, if you want to be graceful in the language, we're not talking 2 years. We're not really even talking for big situations, for work situations, for crises. Being fluent in crises, 4 years is still not enough, really. So if you do speak Spanish, you'll probably learn Italian pretty quickly. If you speak Spanish and French, you'll probably learn it even more quickly. And if you speak Dutch, well, you probably already speak English, but if you speak Dutch and German, you'll learn English quite quickly. I think it's even easier for someone who speaks English and German because Dutch is kind of in the middle ground.
Its own script. Hindi has all its own challenges. There's no Fluent in 3 months. There's only commitment. And
I really like that sentiment, that there's only commitment. It's so true. And it's rewarding. The commitment rewards you with a whole new ability, a whole new population of people that you can collaborate with. That's worth a lot of work. And it makes sense that it takes a lot of work. If you're learning a language with a new alphabet, wow, I commend you. That is so much brain power. That is so fundamental. I have not tried that, and I honestly don't know if I have it in me to learn a new alphabet. If I had to learn a new alphabet, I would probably want to learn one that corresponds to sounds rather than learn characters that are just kind of pictures, pictograms, essentially. I would like to learn something more like Arabic, where at least it's like M has a shape, M has a shape, and, it's not just a picture for a house, and that's kind of an image and a meaning, and you don't even have a phonetic explanation there on the paper for you. I think that would really throw me off. If you just think about the easy stuff you have to learn when you learn a language, and just the memorization that goes into learning the colors or the months of the seasons, days of the week, how to explain time, numbers, cardinal directions, or once you learn the numbers, then you still have to learn 1 is first, and 2 is second, and 3 is third, and then you have to learn that really, when you're talking, it's firstly, secondly, thirdly. If you're making a mistake like that, you're not really fluent. Like, you're not going to sound natural. So if what you want is to be graceful in the language, then you have to have those kind of things ironed out too. So you can definitely speed this process up, but there aren't a lot of tools out there that really help you just drill sentences. Sentences are the basis of all of this. So you'll be best served practicing sentences. There comes a time, though, once you know the sentence, that you want to break it down and really, really understand what it is you're saying on a word-by-word basis so that you know what the building blocks that you're using really mean.
Spending a long time over years learning Hindi. Okay, so let's jump into the 5 challenges I faced while learning Hindi. And unsurprisingly, the first 2 are pronunciation. Pronunciation is absolutely vital when you're learning any language.
Wow, this guy is really on the same page as I am. And despite his Australian pronunciation, I get what he's saying. Pronunciation. That's something I didn't even learn until high school as a native English speaker. Pronunciation. It's pronunciation. Verbally, I knew it. I would have never said pronunciation, but I would have definitely spelled it pronunciation on paper. That's the kind of thing, like, you don't necessarily have to catch on to be fluent out in the world, but you have to catch on to be fluent for your SATs on paper. So yeah, pronunciation. That's wrong. I never knew what all intents and purposes, for all intents and purposes. I didn't know what that was. I thought it was for all intensive purposes, and I had invented my own understanding of that, like what that means. For me, that meant for all intents and purposes. But yeah, it was like I was 16 when I figured that out. Like what I had been understanding was just me trying to make the script in writing to something I'd only ever heard. So, yeah. I don't know. And it's interesting what Carl's saying here. Essentially, pronunciation was his biggest hurdle, which means it's easier to go from speaking to writing than it is to go from writing to speaking. And that's why Real Talk focuses on really talking. But we'll talk to you more about that later. I just really wanted to get this off my chest. Thanks for tuning in. This is Real Talk. Our mission is to make practicing speaking new languages fun, and that is really speaking. We love it. We'll see you next time. Peace.